Welcome to Get Moving TV. I'm Dr. Chris Landon and I serve as your host. In 1977, I graduated from medical school and did my internship up at Stanford. And my very first patient was a young man named Michael Clark. And Michael was an obnoxious adolescent with a disease called cystic fibrosis. He wouldn't take a vitamin unless it was purple, and I found the purple vitamin, became a hero. Michael passed on 2 years later. Cystic fibrosis, finally the day has arrived when I don't have to say it's the most common lethal genetic disease in the Caucasian population. We have invested tremendous amounts, and we have upcoming May is Cystic Fibrosis Month. We have a great strides activities. We need the funds to cure this disease. And the cure's in sight. When the gene was discovered, it looked like we were right there. We were going to be able to inject genes into the lungs. That didn't quite work out. We're a little different design. We're a cystic fibrosis center here in Ventura. We serve San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara County, Ventura County, Kern County. Patients come from, at times, hundreds of miles away to come to a team. They took away some of our funding so that they could work on this cure for cystic fibrosis. They had plates of every chemical known to God and man, water from the Dead Sea, trying to find something that already existed that could help change what happens with these genes. And with me today is the fortunate result of what happened.
Very lucky.
So Emily, before we had newborn screening, and so now I have kinds of cystic fibrosis, we're detecting it so early, we used to have to go by symptoms. And so when were you first diagnosed?
I was diagnosed when I was just a toddler. Most of my symptoms were GI related. I think I had a cough and a wheeze, but it was pretty minor then.
So we used to have to think about doing sweat chlorides. You just go, gosh, they're just not thriving. Maybe a little more diarrhea.
Right.
Why aren't things going right? And it would be kind of a back thought in our mind. It's not the very first thing.
Right. I think they tried a few different things before they finally decided to test me for CF.
And so you ended up in a CF center then?
No, I saw a pulmonologist for a really long time. I saw a family practitioner and then a pulmonologist. And then when I was in college in my early 20s, I was just very skinny and I had a horrible appetite and my lung function was starting to drop a little, and I found a team of doctors that could help all the different symptoms instead of just the lungs, so that really changed everything for me.
When we look at the gene, it's on the long arm of chromosome 7 on the 508th amino acid position. There is a deletion of phenylalanine, and oh my gosh, but it turns out there's several thousand kinds of cystic fibrosis. And so now we're really concentrating on the gene. The future is here. When I watch Gattaca with Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke about, how she would take a lock of his hair, go to the ATM and see if he's a worthwhile mate. Oh my gosh, it's really here. So your genotype is one that responds to this medication. So what's your genotype, and how did they come to actually want to measure it at all?
I can only think of one, and that's the G551D. I'm not sure what my other is. It's also very rare, odd. So I feel really, really blessed that I got to get this drug early. I just couldn't believe it. I'd been following it for years and years in the studies, so it's great.
One thing that's happened, Bruce Marshall from the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation said, if we just do everything we know how to do with nutrition and airway clearance, then we can, and get patients to do it. So
compliance is important.
That people could live 5 to 10 years longer, just doing the things we know how to do.
Right.
And so that's really what we concentrated on. With the cystic fibrosis gene, it's sitting right there in the DNA, and it has to make it through the endoplasmic reticulum and then make it to the surface of the cell. And then that one final step, the G551D, is opening it up. So what medication are you taking? Who's the manufacturer? It's such a rare disease. In the United States, do you know about how many people have that particular mutation?
I think there's 1,200. I don't know how many can actually take the drug due to age and the study limits. Yeah, so not very many.
Yeah, so the cost of the drug to develop all that is in the tens of millions of of dollars. And do you know the cost of the drug?
A month it is $24,500. My cost is virtually nothing. I have very good, very expensive insurance, and I also applied for GHPP insurance, so that's been great. Vertex Pharmaceuticals has called me and helped coordinate all my pharmacy needs. The online pharmacy that I'd been using didn't want to ship it out because it was so expensive, and the insurance didn't want to cover it if it was being shipped. So now I pick it up at the local pharmacy, and so it's been really easier than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be impossible to get. I was telling my parents, you know, I don't know, we're going to have to plan for this, and so it's been great.
We're going to bring on another guest now, so we'll be right back. For me, when I was in training, people got to 19 or 20 or 21. We were very excited. Occasionally 28 would appear out. How old are you, Chris?
I will be 50 next month.
So at 50, were you diagnosed then later in life?
I was diagnosed from birth.
So, and it's because it's in your family, and you had some brothers who passed on?
I had two brothers. My first brother was born in 1961. And when he was diagnosed, he passed away when he was 11 months. My younger brother, which they'd said by then that usually 3 children won't have this, but he was also born with it in 1964, and he passed away in 1996. So I guess I'm just the stubborn one that keeps fighting.
Well, the stubborn one and waiting for this to occur.
Yes.
I think that's with the work of the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, with our Great Strides Walks, and Vertex. When these companies they're looking at just such a small number of people. This isn't blood pressure medications or cholesterol.
Right.
This is a small number of people, and yet they're making this investment for you.
They are, and believe me, we can't thank them enough for this, because this has altered my life since I started on this in December.
Now, I work a lot on airway clearance, and we have devices, the high-frequency chest wall oscillators, and we have antibiotics and enzymes and so forth. But a lot of my patients with cystic fibrosis end up being very thin. Of course, the girls, oh, you're so lucky, you're so thin. Oh, you look just like a Vogue model. But that's not good for their health.
No.
Has this medication had any effect on your weight?
I did. Within the first few weeks of starting on this, I started to gain weight, and so far I've increased about 8-9 pounds.
So over the last, let's say, 10 years or so, you've been working for, who have you been working for?
I work for Quest Diagnostics, and I work for the clinical trials division. So I was aware that Vertex was going to be working on a new drug, which one of our project managers kindly informed me about. So from the day they started, I have followed the progress on that.
And so over the last several years, you got a cystic fibrosis team and got a tune-up. We take our car in for new spark plugs and oil change, filter. Yeah,
and I would highly recommend those, because they really work wonders to clean your lungs out, to clean everything out, and you go in there and you come out feeling like a new person.
And so that's about 2 weeks in the hospital?
That depends on the situation. You know, I went in and I had the bronchoscopy and the sinus surgery as well, so sometimes it may be a couple extra weeks.
So you're in the hospital, and it's somewhere between $3,000 and $6,000 a day for hospitalization.
Yes.
What kind of bills, did you actually ever look at any of those bills?
Well, look, I did look at those, and they are pretty expensive, ranging anywhere from $250,000 to $450,000. But the company I work for has really good insurance for us, and they've also been very helpful with my time off work and my health, so I'm really thankful for the company I work for.
Yeah, because with this medication, I mean, with my patients who are in their 30s and 40s, they're really basically spending 6 hours a day on their health, between airway clearance, inhaling medications, taking pills, working out, doing all the things that I say. It doesn't leave much time for a
Well, I do my, still do my respiratory medications, and I have the vest for airway clearance. So I do 45 minutes in the morning, 45 minutes in the evening. Then I spend about an hour and a half working out, which is working out with weights, and also I have an exercise bike that I usually tend to do 30 minutes on that.
So tell me just a little bit more about your brothers. So you made a commitment to them.
Yeah, it's basically my older brother passed before I was born, but my younger brother, and I told him, well, you know, we've got to keep going here. So I promised him I would stay around, you know, to make sure we saw a cure for this. And I promised my mother that as well. So I make sure she didn't have to, you know, bury all three of us.
Well, I'm so glad that you made, it's a big leap too.
Yes.
That could have affected your liver, it could have affected other parts, and yet you were able to participate in the trials and come out with a medication that's really halted this illness altogether.
Made a big difference. Like I said, it's, I feel like a whole new person.
All right, Christopher, well, thank you for being a whole new person
for
us. Be right back. Welcome to Get Moving TV. I'm Dr. Chris Landon, and I serve as your host. One of the things we have here in Ventura is a rich history in terms of music, things that have come through here. We have festivals at our local county fairgrounds. Out in Ojai we have festivals. And with me today is Ross. And Ross, we were talking earlier just about roadshow revival in America and what we're trying to do here in Ventura. So tell me about what you're up to.
Yeah, we have our company Roadshow Revival. It's our 4th annual. We pay tribute to Johnny Cash, Cindy's father. And you know, the music today for the kids and the generation today, we're capturing, you know, the icons in the past to revive their spirit and continue to share that with today's generation.
Well, I think that's, you know, it's exactly right. You have all these little punk things going on, and you know, I didn't have to use my AK-47 today. It's just not the same. It's not the way Johnny would capture emotions. He could read, I don't know, he could read a newspaper and you'd feel something from it. So how do you go about doing that? Who are your artists and who's coming and where are you going to do this?
Yeah, this year it's going to be June 16th at the Ventura County Fairgrounds. And like I said, it's our 4th annual this year. We have Wanda Jackson. She's going to be headlining. She was on Sun Records along with Johnny and Elvis as well. And she's considered the queen of rockabilly, and she's still around doing her thing. I got to see her a couple months back, and she really puts on a great show. And again, you know, keeping her spirit around and sharing that with. We have 12 other bands as well, so we have a lot of tribute bands and 2 stages this year. We're going back to 2 stages with, we have 6 local bands on one stage, and then we have the headliners and some great tribute bands on the other.
You keep looking off to the side here. Who are you?
Hi, I'm Cindy. Who are you? Hi, I'm
no,
Cindy. I'm Johnny's daughter from his first marriage to Vivian.
You had it right the first time. I'm Cindy Cash.
Oh, no. I can't talk like that. No, can't do it. Tried.
So you grew up out by Lake Casitas, is that?
I grew up in Casitas Springs.
Yeah.
Big town of Casitas Springs, California.
Yeah.
Between Ventura and Ojai.
I actually met you when you were a small child, actually.
That's what somebody said.
Yeah.
Did you come to our home?
Uh-huh. Yeah, my dad was...
On a doctor's call, probably?
No,
there was 4 of us.
I was a teeny tiny little person back then. I may look elderly.
I was going to say, you don't look old enough to have come on a doctor's call.
No, my dad was in the music business. And
who was your dad?
Graylin Landon. He was the
Graylin Landon.
chief of PR at RCA Records. And so you have...
My gosh.
I'll tell you a little story.
Yeah.
So my dad started out at USC in journalism, and what do you do in journalism? We got to go to New York City, and so he ended up working at a place called Hill and Range.
I know Hill and Range very well.
Albert Rock Brothers there, and hillbilly music and range music, Gene Autry and the like. And and they sent him out to Tennessee.
So he worked for Hill and Range.
He worked for Hill and Range,
which is one of Dad's publishing companies to this day, still.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
So
I know that because I see things in the mail from them.
So they sent him out to Tennessee to
Yeah.
look around and at places, at country festivals and bars.
Wow.
And so
How
he
neat.
came
Well,
back.
they didn't tell me that before I got here. That
Well, that's why I thought
I have
we'd
a
go-
history with you here.
Well, we have a long, long history, our girlfriend. So I ended up going down age 5 with my dad down to Memphis to meet up with this person they thought was going to be might be able to sell some Hill and Range records and songs. And so we went to his mother's little house, and this 19-year-old kid got bored and came out, and Elvis nailed a dartboard to his mother's front door, and Elvis and I played darts for the next half hour.
Wow.
Then the next day, we went to this teeny tiny little recording studio where they had the big Sennheiser mics, and it was
With
huge
the
old
big
mics. And
sun-looking thing.
that's that big sun-looking thing. And they had to get the mic just so, kind of like we're mic'd
Right.
today, and singer here and the drum there, and just a little snare so you wouldn't overwhelm the bass.
Tiniest little room in the world. Have you been there lately over the
no.
years? Oh, I was there just a few months ago. Still looks exactly the same.
Anyway, out came this man, and I was being kind of off in the corner, and they'd given me a ruler to make things. So
my gosh.
on a record by somebody you might know, I walked the line. If you listen real carefully to the first one, that's me tapping away on my little ruler in the background. So
You were keeping the beat.
I was keeping the beat, and that
Wow.
engineer shook that tape recorder. Going, what is wrong here? So anyway,
That is amazing.
But in your house, I think you probably have some memorabilia too.
A little bit.
Yeah. So what kind of things do you have there? How do you inspire this man to keep up this?
Oh, if I talk to Ross and he starts like going, oh, I just don't know if I can do this anymore. And then I just say, well, just come on over and we'll talk about it. And he'll come over and I'll start reading him letters Dad wrote me when I was about 6 or something that Dad, something, some inspiration. He would write letters once in a while. And every New Year's Eve, he wrote himself a letter talking, hey, John, you did this. Let's do it different this next year. And one year he came downstairs, we were in Jamaica at our home there, and he came downstairs and he said, I didn't write myself a letter this New Year's Eve, I wrote you one. And it's dated at 11:50 p.m. on New Year's Eve, I think it was 1989. And it's basically just inspiration for me. I was 19, 20 years old, growing into a womanhood, and I let Ross read those kind of things, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's why we're doing this."
That's why we're putting up
yeah.
with all of that.
The picture. But about once a week, he needs a little uplift here.
Yeah, early on in the festival days, it was further in between, and things were a little bit easier then. And now, as the years go on, things, we've added a lot to it. We raised the bar, and like I said, depending on the day or the week, the team met up there last night and just kind of lifted everybody up. And
there's not a lot of people working on it, so it's a lot of work for a few people.
Yeah.
And then you end up usually with sponsors, because it's hard to cover the cost of these things. Who are your sponsors now?
Correct.
Plug them.
Yeah, we're working with Budweiser. They've been with us since day one, and Guitar Centers. They do all of our.
You gotta have
backline
beer at a
amp.
festival.
And guitars too.
Yes, and guitars and amps, and we work with Amtrak. Food Share is one of our nonprofits we work with, and yeah, we're blessed in that area, and I'm learning myself when you give back and the things that come forth from it, and yeah, it's a delicate balance. Every year it reminds me of things, what not to do, what to do, and make sure that we turn over every stone that we can to make it a success.
Well, Cindy, you probably have a big Rolodex too there. Some people you've grown up with. And
well, last
can give
year
a
I
call.
called, I wanted to get Chris Christopherson. But they're the kind of people, Chris and Dad were like brothers. And when I called, I was, I'm not a booking agent, so when I call, it's basically for a favor. hey, we were having a festival honoring Dad's music. You want to come? And when I called Chris last year, he said, isn't that Father's Day weekend? I said, yes, sir. He said, well, where else should I be than with you on Father's Day weekend? He came and did it for nothing. And he did it and his part of what we would have paid him, he gave to Food Share and to the Battered Women's Shelter, which was one of my dad's favorite charities. And he said, you pick the charity, and that's who I'll do it for you and for them. And he came and it was great. And this year I've got secrets that I'm not telling yet. So, but we're working on it. There's other people maybe coming that we're kind of not ready to announce quite yet.
So at home, you have gold records at home then? And
well, all of us children got our share of them. He had plenty to go around, thank God. So we each got them. About 3 weeks before my dad passed, he received his double platinum for Folsom Prison Blues in the mail, and he personally gave that to me before he passed away. I lived with my dad the last 3 months of his life, so we were pretty close too. I was an epitome of a daddy's girl.
Aw.
Yeah.
Well, that's the sweetest thing.
Proud of it. It's okay.
Yeah. You have some shirts in the closet there?
A few.
Yeah.
Everybody's like saying, Cindy, don't you want this sterling silver? And I want that bandana Dad used to wear all the time, you know? I mean, at that time, you're a little over sentimental, but that's okay.
Okay, well, Ross, tell us, besides the secret talent, who else is playing at the festival? Name off those local bands.
You know what? I'll start with the Get Rhythm stage is our main stage, and we have Wanda Jackson. She's going to be headlining. We have Slim Jim Phantom from the Stray Cats. He has a trio that he puts together, and Tim Polecat is going to be joining him, and Phil Alvin from the Blasters, big LA 80s band. And then we have Big River. They're a tribute band here in Ventura that's one of the favorites. And we have With a Bible and a Gun, a band from Hollywood they're great as well.
They do all Dad's songs only. And
Yeah.
so does Big River.
Yeah, the tribute bands.
They don't
And-
try to be him, they just sing his songs. That's really great.
So on your Facebook page, can we link to YouTube and all this?
Yeah, you can
Social
go
marketing
on
thing.
the Roadshow Revival, and you can get updated on all the latest and best things that we have going on at the time, the announcements and whatnot. And further the bands, we have a band called J.R. Black. They do Johnny Cash in French.
In French.
Unbelievable. And got these girls called the Johnnies, all-girl band coming from New Zealand. And then we have the local showcase stage. We have Big Tweed, Jeff Hershey and the Heartbeats, the Pullman, 50 Sticks of Dynamite, and Kyle Hunt and the King Gypsy.
All right, so we know kind of the who and the what and the where, and
Not all the Who, just most of the Who.
And we got some
of the
special
who.
guests coming.
Yeah. So for the fairgrounds, how long? This is an all-day event or all-weekend event? Or?
Yeah, gates are at 10:30, and there's going to be cars, motorcycles, pinup girls. There's going to be vendors selling merchandise, Johnny Cash stuff, and their own products, and it'll be over approximately 6:30.
Okay, well so Cindy, back to you. So,
Uh-oh.
yeah, so you're daddy's girl. So when you were a girl, what were some other things you did with your dad? Did you ever go on the road with him?
I went on the road with him for about 25 years. I went on the road with him full time for about 8 years and was a regular part of his show. About halfway through his concert, I would come out and do a duet with him, and then that would be his little break, and then he would come back out. I would sing by myself, and then he'd come back out, and I would go back off the stage, and it was just this is my little girl, and she's on the road with me moment, you know, and I didn't really want a career in singing. I just wanted to be with him. And I realized when I was about 19 that if I wanted to be with him, I better go on the road. My sister, Roseanne, of course, has a singing career. It wasn't anything I really was interested in. Thank God I could sing well enough to just be on stage with him. I didn't even want to do that, really. He brought me out there 10 minutes before showtime one night. I was 16, and said, "You're going to sing with me tonight." And that's about all the warning I had. So I tried to, you know, sharpen that up a little bit so I didn't have any more surprises like that. But that was what I did. I did that off and on until he retired. I was on stage with him the night of his last performance when he almost, you know, he was very ill that night. No one knew it. He didn't tell people, and he felt bad, and I literally had to walk him off the stage, and he never was able to go on stage again. But he continued to make records, lots of them, with Rick Rubin, and I think became bigger than he was in a different way, of course, than in the 50s with the young people. That was so exciting for him. He's really proud of him for that.
Well, Ross and Cindy, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah, if
we'll
folks want additional information, then go to our website, roadshowrevival.com.
How many times have you heard someone say, if I had his money, I could do things my way? But little they know that it's so hard